Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Wednesday Wisdom, and we've got the beautiful Helen here again. We're talking about boundaries and all sorts of things today. Let me get up the Facebook community. There we are. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm good. A little bit chilly compared to where you are. This morning it was, I don't know what it is now, but this morning when I woke up, it was 7 degrees.
Oh, that is fresh. Yeah. Yes.
I know.
We sometimes get into single figures, but we don't stay there for long. The day warms up so fast. I remember in Melbourne, say it's going to get to 20 and it'd do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for about 5 minutes. It's kind of, we're here. It actually, it warms up. I'm on the Gold Coast and it's beautiful. I love the weather.
Yeah.
But aren't these clear nights so beautiful? And the new moon has been just so exquisite.
Absolutely. And I like the crystal clear nights. It's been it's really interesting because at the back of my house there's a whole heap of bushland. Yes. Like I back onto bushland, and the Illawarra Shire is doing some sort of light show in there at the moment.
Beautiful. And
so they've got this music going late at night, like that's sort of like eerie and so on top of seeing the stars and everything, there's like little glimmers of light coming through the forest and this eerie sort of music. It's really beautiful. I love it.
I get that. I went to that light show that they had at Er0tic at Uluru. I shouldn't call it Er0tic, at Uluru. And I had the dinner there, and we went out into the desert and had that light show. It was like a world-class experience. So isn't that great that they've done an installation like that where you are? Yeah,
just behind us. It's going for nearly a whole month. So we're gonna we haven't seen it other than the back of our house at the moment, but we're going to go and have a wander through. So
so that for me was one of those experiences in my life where I can evoke the feeling. Like I just think about it and everything in my body feels that sense of being in the desert and having these beautiful lights around us and Uluru there in the background. Yeah, it was just quite special.
I can imagine. Yeah. So today we're talking about making clear asks and setting boundaries. So a nice transition from our session last week.
Yes.
And so this is all about expression, right? Self-expression and knowing who you are and what's going on. Like once you know who you are and, identifying the blueprint is a really great way to understand more of your inner territory. Yes. Then that gives you a little bit more awareness of what works and what doesn't work for you. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, because your desires are your desires. You don't make them up. It's actually what your body wants. That's what the blueprint is showing you, that you have this desire for certain ways of being treated in the world and certain ways of being with yourself. But that's only part of the picture. Then how do you ask for that? So one of my mentors says one of the classic things with women, and I resonate with this, is that they will ask for half of what they actually want because they believe that's what they can get, instead of actually making the full ask for the whole thing. And then they're disappointed because they only get half of the thing that they asked for, and then they're resentful. So this vicious cycle. So how do we break out of this patterning, this cultural conditioning that says we can only ask for what we believe we're worthy of, or what the other person will give us? And there's a beauty.
And Can I just share that it's like I only just looked at what we were going to talk about before we got on. Yeah. But this morning I had a big revelation around belief systems from from childhood and from my mother about not being able to have everything that I want. Yes. And so I've been walking around the house going, I can have everything I want. And so it's really interesting that this is our topic this morning, right?
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a serendipity, isn't it? Yeah. We do this. We
tune in and connect. Yeah.
To each other. Yeah. And I'm loving watching this beautiful blossoming and flowering of your evolution as you live in your truth. And and you're a beautiful example of someone who embodies the blueprints. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So
it's been really good to understand, like the more I understand your work, the more I understand all of those aspects of myself, right? And so that's what's so beautiful about these discussions. So let's go for it. What have you got to share with us?
I think Brené Brown is one of the best teachers out there about boundaries and what it means to have boundaries. So I typed in boundaries and did a Google search, Brené Brown boundaries, and I've come up with this quote, and I think we can unpack it together. But I'll read the whole quote to start with, and this comes from a recent book of hers. I don't know if it's the most recent, called Anatomy of the Heart. So Brené Brown says, boundaries are a prerequisite for compassion and empathy. We can't connect with someone unless we are clear about where we end and they begin. If there's no autonomy between people, then there's no compassion or empathy, just enmeshment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So powerful, isn't it? Right?
I know, she's amazing. So, Elizabeth, what do you see empathy as being?
So, empathy is a really interesting one because empathy to me is very different to feeling, what's the other word? Like sorry for someone, feeling
sympathy. It's
sympathy. Sympathy.
Two different
very
things.
Different. Now, I'm not quite sure if I know the definition in real terms, but my definition is that sympathy is when energetically you understand, you've experienced it yourself, and you hook into somebody's energy and you sympathize with them because you relate. Whereas empathy, you may have a similar experience, but you've healed it. You don't need to hook into somebody's energy with it. And so you can empathize for where they're at. And, like I just recently, my beautiful cat, I had to have my beautiful cat pass. And so I've had her for 20 years, right? So I went through my tears and I went through, all the stuff. But, things pass and die. We're human and animals are animals. And so, I've gone past my grieving and I am now aware that, she's around still and blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Yeah.
But when people sympathize, they're hooking in rather than, oh, yeah, I feel your pain, I understand it, but I'm not going to take it on.
Yes, exactly. They can be in your shoes and understand the pain, but the way that they respond to you is so different, isn't it? Yeah, rather than that's too bad, that feels so hard, to actually say, wow, you must really be feeling the grief of your beautiful cat passing. And it's not a projection way, is it? It's just like I'm standing with you in that grief, but I'm holding myself in myself still. Yeah.
Knowing, and I love what Brené said there about knowing where you end and they begin and vice versa.
Yes.
Because when we enmesh, that's when it gets sticky.
Totally. Yeah. And I've lived with my husband now for over 43 years. We're coming up for 44, and we became massively enmeshed. We've both got a lot of the energetic in us, and because I couldn't set boundaries or make clear asks, our energies were so merged, we really couldn't tell where one began and the other finished. And people would say to us, you look like brother and sister, because energetically we were so
in alignment.
Yeah. So it's been a big process to create, who am I really, and who is he? There's been some clear boundaries that we've had to put in place to create that, but the rewards for it are amazing. Like, he's living in the fullness of his self, and he's just got his mojo back. He's so excited about life, and people are responding to me for who I am. So, you can be in a massively enmeshed relationship for decades, but once you start implementing, creating clear asks and setting boundaries, you can change all of that. And I think you've done that.
Yeah. And also with Tim, because as a shapeshifter, I would say, that's really what my blueprint is that I'm a shapeshifter. And being predominantly energetic, I tend to, that's the work that I do, right? I merge with people so I can read them and clear, stuff that's going on and help them move forward. But it is a natural tendency for me to merge with somebody's energy field. The part that, is just like, I always get permission to delve in a bit deeper, but the part that just is naturally there. And so I can lose myself quite easily in, that chameleon energy of just, a lot of people say I get on really well, I can't believe how well you get on with. I can go and sit in the streets in the gutter with a bum and talk to a homeless person. Not a bum, but you know what I mean, like someone that's in the gutter, and then I can go and talk at a conference with the elite. Like, I don't see them as any different, and I can merge with someone's energy in any given situation, which is not necessarily a good thing for me personally.
So the boundary then is letting that go, isn't it? Because that's your superpower, that's your gift, to be able to clearly read another person's energy and hold that in you. But then when that interaction's finished, it's how do you let that go? And I've had to learn that. I've tended to obsess over things because I want to solve all of the problems for that other person. I take them on so strongly in myself. I've learned to not do that. Do you resonate with that?
I used to. That was a big thing way back. I'd say about 10 years ago. But I'm really good at holding, like, being aware of it and not giving my power away. But in saying that, so allowing people to heal or not heal and respecting their choice in whatever capacity. But in saying that, then having to come back to me, well, what do I want? That's the, because I tend to, I want what everyone else wants, right? And so, so what do I want? What is my space? Where do I sit? Is something that's for me, having to come back to that question, what are my choices here?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So I'm going to read a bit more, Brene. So this is on Oprah.com, and this is Brene talking more about boundaries. So she says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. We can't base our own worthiness on others' approval, and this is coming from someone who spent years trying to please everyone, that's Brene speaking, only when we believe deep down that we are enough can we say enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because especially women, people pleasers, right?
Yes.
We have been conditioned to be people pleasers, not to rock the boat and all of that sort of stuff. So what are our boundaries? and what, how do we ask for them if we don't know what? So it's that internal work, isn't it?
It is, totally. Yeah. And standing in that belief that you are enough. So what I noticed with my husband when I started setting the boundaries was, okay, I'm clear about what I want and I'll make the ask. And I just thought he would passively, accept my request and there would be no, that would be it. But we'd had, a 40-year history of me never making clear asks. So I'd make an ask and he would react rather than respond. And part of me, the little girl part of me wanted to run away and say, no, this is too scary. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go through this. It's obviously not working, all of that sort of stuff. And then I realized, of course, he's reacting because I've never been clear. I've never made asks, and he doesn't actually believe that I'm going to stick with this. So it was repetition. It was coming back and saying, well, actually, I do want this, and this is how I want it. And, he'd get a little bit less reactive until I would say it so clearly that he would say, wow, you actually want this,
Yeah.
But a lot of people will put the finger in and with the boss or whatever and think they've made a clear ask, which they probably have, and it hasn't been received. And if they don't have that,
and go back in.
Yeah, if I'm not sensing that I'm enough and I'm worth this, you'll just go back into your story.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I see it with women. I'm just thinking of a couple of clients in particular of, as we're recoding and we're clearing things, they're becoming more expressive and finding their boundaries and being able to express that. And their partners, like, huh? Like, wait a minute, like this pattern's, it's a pattern disruption, right?
That's right. We've got our pattern settled and I'm organised and I'm quite happy for us just to be muddling along. That's the partner's response. But you're thinking, no, I'm not satisfied with this. This is actually what I really do want.
Yeah. And so it, it does, it takes that having to stand in that and because, like at first it's a little bit scary because often the other person will backfire in some way to keep you in the same pattern so that it's comfortable again, right? The path of least resistance, they say, right?
Yeah.
And so, to be able to stand strong, knowing that eventually, like this is going to wobble, this side's going to wobble, but eventually the equilibrium will come and the resonance will come. They'll be, find that their pattern or not, depending on the severity of the ask and the boundaries and all that sort of stuff. But, what comes up for me as we're talking, from a business point of view, another thing that's just recently been happening in my world is thinking about, like not knowing what my asks were internally because I didn't know, like because I flow with others, like what is my identity? Who am I? When I first started doing my branding in my business, I went with, oh yeah, I like that. That looks good, right? But didn't have a deep connection to it, but just went with it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
And because that's what I do, because I don't have a big opinion. I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, you know, like I'm not very opinionated, but I am, you know, like I'm strong with certain things, but then really blasé and flowy with others.
Yes.
And so just recently, I'm starting to come into my lane, and I'm starting to recognize, you know, okay, those colors, like, they're not really working for me. They're not really resonating. And so going into an understanding, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
And so my brand story is actually coming out, you know, like the reason for the deeper blues and the, you know, the midnight blue and the gold glitter is, you know, the 3 shooting stars that I got when I first woke up, you know, and, you know, like, so there's now a depth to it that I understand for myself, and it resonates with me.
Yes.
But it's taken me a while to
so
you know.
fascinating, isn't it? How long it takes to come into that depth of understanding and knowing of ourselves. And I'm finding that too. I'm in the transformative space at the moment, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing this in a habitful way. And, you know, it's not a truly energetic way. It's not really in my authentic way. So I'm moving my boundaries with myself, you know, and finding ways to express myself more fully. So I resonate totally with that. Yeah. And that's beautiful, isn't it? And when you see that authentic expression of you in your business, doesn't that feed you so deeply?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it has, because it's got more meaning to me, it's going to resonate more to my audience as well, right? And yeah. And so for the women that are listening to this, that, you know, what would you suggest, or what are your tips to step into this asking and you know, discovering your boundaries? What would you say is the first steps if there's someone there that's going, yeah, I totally get that, I just flow with everybody else and I don't ask enough, or I don't feel worthy enough? What would you say resonates to, you know, like, what would you give as a suggestion?
Yeah. So to me, there's a process here. There's identifying who you truly are, what your deepest desires are, and living in the fullness of that. Really, you know, I talked about my energetic expansion and my sensual expansion, how I owned more deeply what my body actually says it wants and how that expressed out in the world. And then Brene, in the next part, she talks about how she made a mantra, and her mantra was to choose discomfort over resentment. So it's learning to make the ask.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable to make the ask. You're going to get a reaction back. You have 2 choices. You can bite back, or you can take that in and say, okay, I haven't been clear enough yet. I've got to come back to this. I've got to keep creating my ask until it lands in the person that you're making the request from. So the choice of the discomfort, that's a really big part of this process. It's not, oh, I made an ask and that person didn't do the thing that I wanted in the way that I wanted. It's that you haven't yet owned your enoughness, your queen, if you like, or your wild woman, or whatever it is, you know, your authentic self. And, you know, there hasn't yet been that connection. So it's a process. So it's practice. That's the next thing. And one of Brene's gems is your resentments show where you don't have a boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she has to keep a diary of it, all those damn it's, you know, that's her language. The diary, write down all the places where you're feeling resentment, because they're the places that you're not setting boundaries. And then practice with a friend. Like, say to someone, make me a ridiculous ask and I'll respond to you and say, oh, I can't do that. You know, actually practice getting those words out of your mouth. If you're an energetic and someone makes you a big request, you can go into shock. You know, we talked about too much, too fast, too soon, and you're there's nothing, you can't respond, so you just nod your head and say okay, when you mean
yeah.
yeah, you know, I can't do that. Thank you for asking. It's really nice of you to make that request of me, but no, not at this time, or my plate is full. Practice the phrases.
And one of the things as an energetic that I have found works really well for me when I get something, because I used to do that, like, you know, and just say yes when I was way younger. One of the tools that's worked really well for me is, oh, can I have it? I'm going to think about that and I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Because I need to process it.
Yes.
And so, you know, like to actually use the words of, you know, like because it, you know, as an energetic, you've got to feel into it, right? You've got to visualize the experience. You've got, you know, how will I feel and what, you know, whether I can and all those things.
Yeah, you need the processing time.
Yeah.
And if that person's insistent and adamant and I want the answer now, the energetic needs to practice, well, actually then I can't do it.
Yeah, they can't do it. Yeah.
You know,
sorry, that's a no. Yeah.
That's a no. You know, if you're going to insist and not allow me the time to process that, then I'm a no. Yeah. But these don't come easily. These come with getting with a coach, getting with a friend, and actually practicing these things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is really important work, Helen.
Totally.
This is really important work, because the more we find our own space, the more we understand our own boundaries, and the more we ask for what we want, the more we understand what we want and express it. We are then, you know, the whole Marianne Williamson thing, it's, you know, when we shine our light, we give others permission to do the same. And so we need to be the warriors, the vision walkers. We need to be the ones that are doing this to support other women, and also the children, you know, the women that are coming up, you know, the young girls that are coming up, you know, behind us.
Yes.
To be able to express without force or, you know, radical aggression or anything like that, and being able to just be firmly and gently ourselves, you know.
Yeah. That whole aggression piece is a big part, isn't it? And can you hear how I'm not advocating aggression?
That's all.
That's not setting boundaries. That's just being angry.
Yeah, and that's one of the things people like. I'm totally aware of when, you know, that somehow the twist and distortion of the feminist movement turned into, to be powerful, we've got to be aggressive, and it's actually not the case.
Yeah.
You know, aggression is, you know, that sort of power is coming from a place of feeling powerless in the first place and having to force.
Yes.
And so when we really understand who we are, and be able to express it, and, you know, sometimes that might be with a force, but not an aggressive force. It's a force of, no, I'm actually not okay with this, right? Like, setting those boundaries in that way, or just being able to express ourselves in that gentle, humble way as well, right?
I think this is the true feminism.
Yeah, me too.
Standing in your own enoughness and saying no, you know, or whatever way you need to say it. I appreciate you asking, but my answer is no.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever the verbiage is that you feel comfortable to use. But you can practice saying no. You can have practice sessions, you know.
Yeah. With other.
A couple of times. Yeah, but it's so important, you know, and you can practice being different personas. Like you could be the naughty girl, no, or you could be the, you know,
no.
Until you find your flavor of a no. You know, there's so many different ways that a no can be said, and visualize different people. You know, on Netflix, visualize different characters from different shows that you might have watched and think how they might actually set their boundary. You know, how would Oprah say no? How does Brene Brown say no? How do all these people, how does Elizabeth say no?
Yeah, absolutely. And so and being able to say yes as well, like being able, like so many of us get so shy and submissive, and but to be able to say yes when, especially in intimate situations, for example, like to be able to say yes, actually I would really enjoy that.
So, I said women have this tendency to not make the whole ask. Well, this is another characteristic that you might recognize, is you make an ask and the person offers you that and maybe even a little bit more, an add-on, and you don't accept that what they're offering you don't have the ability to receive. You say, oh, no, it's okay. I'd be happy with it. That is not a yes. Like, yes, this person offered me, what I asked for and some. Wow.
Yeah. Actually allow that in, receive it. Yeah,
and I think that's what I'm seeing for you in this relationship that's flowering for you. I'm seeing you really deeply receiving and opening to everything that this lovely man has to offer you.
Absolutely.
That is actually a skill.
It is, because it was it has had its moments, because it's the first relationship that has given me this much love and support. And so in my dysfunction, in my default, I tend to go, no, don't fucking help me, I can do it by myself. so being able to receive in the feminine is so rewarding. And it's just like, it's enveloping, and like it's so powerful. It's way more powerful than a lot of women realize.
Totally. I think that's a good place for us to finish.
I think so too. It's been an amazing conversation as always, and we've got one powerful session left, so we'll be on next week as well. So if anyone's got any comments or added suggestions, or wants to share something that relates, then definitely put it in the comment, and we will catch you next week. Take care.